Have you ever seen the same man in two wedding photos, on the same day? I did. And the worst part? One bride was me. The other was someone I'd never met. It started with laughter. That kind of soft, private laughter that lovers share behind closed doors. I was brushing blush onto my cheeks, still wearing the silky white robe embroidered with bride across the back. My best friend, Alina, was fixing the hem of my dress in the corner of the hotel suite, and my mother was fussing with a flower arrangement. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. The wedding was set in a lakeside vineyard, something I'd dreamed about since I was a teenager. Birds chirped in the distance, sunlight dappled through the window panes, and I felt like a princess. I was hours away from marrying Ryan. Ryan Taylor. The man who made me believe in forever again. He was everything a woman would want. Tall, warm brown eyes, and always said the right things. When he proposed with my grandmother's ring and promised to never lie to me, I believed him with every part of my heart. But there was something off that morning. Ryan wasn't answering his phone. I told myself he was probably just with his groomsmen. Maybe he left it in the suite. I wasn't going to be that bride, the one who spirals over small things. I took a breath, smiled into the mirror, and said, "Today, I become his wife." The ceremony was magical. The vows were emotional. Ryan cried before I did. He pulled me close during our first dance like I was the only person in the universe. But that night changed everything. It was almost midnight. Most of the guests had left. My heels were off, my veil was draped over a chair, and Ryan had disappeared for a moment to grab something from the car. He'd been acting weird since the reception ended, jumping at texts, checking his watch. I stood near the hallway window, watching the moonlight ripple across the lake, when Alina came running toward me. Her face was pale. Her voice shook. "Emma, you need to see this." She handed me her phone. A blurry Instagram story was playing. Two women clinking glasses, wearing wedding dresses. The location tag read, Coastal Gardens Banquet Hall, Eastview. Same date. Same time. Same groom. Then the camera panned to him. Ryan. Kissing her hand. I couldn't breathe. No, this wasn't real. This couldn't be real. But then the screen flashed again, and I saw it. His cufflinks. The same ones I had gifted him this morning. My chest tightened. I dropped her phone. I was still in my gown, while the man I had just married was photographed in another wedding, with another bride. Who was she? Was this some kind of twisted prank? A horrible coincidence? Or was I not the only woman he had lied to? My heart begged for answers. But all I had were questions. Where was Ryan now? Why was he at another wedding? How long had this been going on? And worst of all, was I ever his only one? I didn't sleep that night. I didn't cry either, not at first. My body was frozen. My thoughts kept spinning in slow, jagged loops as I sat at the edge of the hotel bed in my wedding dress. I didn't even notice when the sun rose. It filtered through the window like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Ryan never came back. Not after going to the car. Not after I saw him in that video with another bride. Not after I texted, called, begged, and finally stopped myself from deleting him entirely out of rage. Alina stayed with me. She brought water, tried to calm me, kept whispering, "We'll figure this out." But I could see it in her eyes, she was scared too. Because this wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a groom with cold feet or a guy caught in a lie. This was something else. Something worse. Something intentional. When I finally peeled off my dress, I stared at the empty ring finger I never got to adorn. The gold band was still in its little velvet box on the nightstand. I hadn't even slipped it on before he vanished. We met 2 years ago. At a conference in Chicago, ironically, about ethical marketing. He introduced himself with charm, joked about the terrible coffee, and offered to share his umbrella when it rained after. His voice was warm, his eyes kind. And when he smiled, I forgot the city was cold. He pursued me gently, respectfully. Dinners turned to weekends. Weekends turned to love. Or, what I thought was love. I brought him home to meet my parents. He laughed with my father. Cooked with my mother. My nieces adored him. He didn't just enter my life, he fit into it. Looking back now, I wonder, how many of those moments were real? How many were rehearsed? I opened his last message again. Be right back. Love you. Just 3 hours before I saw him kissing another woman's hand. I didn't know who she was. Her face in the Instagram story was only visible for a second, smiling, radiant, glowing in her own wedding dress. But she looked happy. Loved. Like she trusted him, too. And that broke something in me. Because it meant I wasn't the only one. Alina finally convinced me to leave the hotel. We took her car and drove aimlessly through the city. Every billboard, every couple crossing the street, every bouquet seller, it all reminded me of what I was supposed to have. Do you want to go to the venue in the video? She asked softly, keeping both hands on the wheel. I hesitated. My gut said yes. My heart said no. But my pride, my need for truth, whispered, you deserve to know. We pulled into the parking lot of Coastal Gardens Banquet Hall. The decorations were already gone. A cleanup crew was sweeping up petals and folding white chairs. No sign of Ryan. No sign of her. But the front desk manager recognized him immediately. Yeah, she said, flipping through her clipboard. Ryan Prescott. Married to a Madison Hayes yesterday. Gorgeous ceremony. They had matching vows. I felt the room tilt beneath me. Prescott. He told me his last name was Taylor. That was when the pieces began to crumble in my head, fast. New name. New wedding. New wife. And suddenly. How well did I ever really know him? Was Ryan a con artist? A serial liar? Or was I the second wife, not the first? And then came the phone call. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Against every instinct, I answered. The voice on the other end was calm. Female. Hi. I think we need to talk. About Ryan. I met her the next morning. The woman on the phone, Madison Hayes, asked to meet in person. Her voice didn't crack, but I could feel the effort behind her calm. We chose a quiet cafe near the harbor, far from both wedding venues and far from the people who might recognize us. When she walked in, time stopped. She was beautiful. Tall. Composed. Still wearing her wedding ring. For a second, I hated her, not because she stole Ryan, but because he had stolen both of us. We sat across from each other, two strangers bound by the same man, trying to untangle the same betrayal. Madison pulled out her phone and placed it gently on the table. "I saw your text on his lock screen," she said. "While he was in the shower." I flinched. "Did you confront him?" She shook her head, eyes misty but controlled. "No. I wanted to meet you first. Make sure I'm not losing my mind." We compared timelines. Photos. Flights. Lies. And they lined up, too perfectly. Ryan had two entire relationships, two full identities. With me, he was Ryan Taylor, from Boston, marketing consultant. With Madison, he was Ryan Prescott, from Seattle, tech entrepreneur. His stories matched just enough to sound plausible but shifted just enough to be separate realities. "He even had a different dog," Madison whispered. That was when it hit me, this wasn't just cheating. This wasn't an affair. This was a double life. "I thought I knew him," I muttered. "I married him," she replied. The weight of that sank in. I had escaped the legal bonds of a marriage. Madison hadn't. She was, on paper, his wife. And neither of us knew his real name. Back at Alina's apartment, I broke down for the first time. My hands shook. My chest felt crushed. The truth had shattered everything I trusted. But even worse, Ryan was still gone. No apology. No call. No explanation. Where was he? That night, we reported him. Madison and I sat in the same police station, two broken women filing a joint complaint. Fraud. Identity manipulation. Emotional and financial deception. The officer raised an eyebrow when we said, "He married both of us within the same month." "Sounds like he's done this before," the officer muttered. We looked at each other. Had he? A week passed. Still no sign of Ryan. But then, the news broke. A woman in Arizona had posted a video, "My fiancé disappeared the night before our wedding." Turns out, I wasn't the only one. In the video, she held up a picture. It was him. Different name. Different city. Same smile. That night, our inboxes flooded. 3 more women. All with the same story. All with the same man. He had perfected it, rotating identities, weaving believable lies, creating small-scale weddings without family involvement. No one connected the dots. Until now. The media caught on. Headlines popped up, "Wedding conman exposed, 5 women, 1 groom, countless lies." How one man lived multiple lives, until his brides united. Bride sisterhood, how betrayal created an unbreakable bond. We didn't want the fame. But we needed the truth. And justice. Madison and I became each other's lifelines. Strangers turned sisters. Pain turned purpose. We shared notes, built a timeline, and created a private online group where other women might find us. Each new message hit like a dagger. Another heart broken. Another life rewritten. But the most terrifying part? None of us really knew who he was. No real ID. No real past. Just stories. Until one day, a woman joined the group and typed, "He's not Ryan." His real name is Lucas Myers. I should know. I'm his mother. The message from his mother shattered the last bit of stability I had left. His real name is Lucas Myers. I'm his mother. And I haven't seen him in 5 years. Madison and I stared at the screen in disbelief. Could this be another trick? Another woman claiming to know him like we thought we had. But then she sent a photo, Lucas as a teenager, standing next to a woman with the same striking jawline and dark eyes we knew all too well. No denying it. He used to do this with small jobs, she wrote. Changing names. Faking things. But this, the marriages? I had no idea. The more we read, the colder the room felt. He had done this before, small cons, fake businesses, fake degrees. But none of them lasted like this. None of them involved vows, rings, and ruined futures. We'd uncovered the real man. But he had disappeared. Days turned into weeks. Our inbox filled with stories. 7 women now. All duped. All married or nearly married to Lucas Myers. One of them, Ava, sent a wedding video. And my blood ran cold. In the background, blurred by guests, I saw myself. Laughing. Holding a drink. It was from my reception venue. Same day. Same hotel. Just a different ballroom. 2 weddings. Same building. He went from my vows to hers. He changed jackets. Fixed his hair. And walked down the aisle again. For Ava. I didn't know what to do with that kind of betrayal. It wasn't just lying. It wasn't just cheating. It was strategic. Calculated. Planned like a heist. I played the video over and over, watching the way he smiled at Ava the same way he smiled at me. As if none of it mattered. As if all of us were just roles in some sick fantasy he curated. I couldn't sleep. Couldn't eat. Madison came over that night. We sat on the floor of my living room, laptops open, mapping out every city he'd lived in, every alias, every company registered to fake addresses. We're doing the cop's job now, I muttered. She looked up. Because they're not taking it seriously. And they weren't. We had filed everything, videos, photos, testimonies, but the authorities saw it as domestic confusion. No money stolen. No physical harm. Only shattered lives. Then, something unexpected happened. A knock on my door. Not Madison. Not family. A woman. Mid-50s. Holding a worn-out folder. I'm sorry, she said. Are you Emma? I saw the article. I think I knew Lucas. A long time ago. I let her in. Her name was Celia. She had worked with Lucas, back when he was 20, using a different name even then. He had vanished from her company one day. No notice. Took client lists. Sold them under a new brand. But the folder, it held something I hadn't seen yet. A passport. A real one. Found in an old HR file by accident. Lucas Elijah Myers. Born in Ohio. No aliases. Now we had something the police couldn't ignore. We brought everything to a new detective, Detective Hall. She took one look at the evidence and leaned back, silent. When she finally spoke, her voice was low, "This isn't just fraud. This man has a pattern. You may not be his only targets." That was the first time I felt heard. Seen. But also terrified. Because if there were more victims, how many lives had he rewritten? And more urgently, where was he now? What was he planning next? That night, I got a message. A new number. No name. Just one sentence: "You were never supposed to find each other." My hands went numb. Was he watching us? Was he near? I looked out the window. Shadows moved across the street. My reflection looked pale and unfamiliar. I wasn't just scared, I was being hunted in a story I never chose. And yet, I felt stronger than ever. Because I wasn't alone. Madison, Ava, Celia, we were all rising. He had broken us separately. But we were coming together. And now, he was the one who should be afraid. I thought the message, "You were never supposed to find each other," was the worst of it. But I was wrong. The real twist came when I found the second phone. I was cleaning out a coat closet I hadn't opened in months. One of Ryan's, no, Lucas's, old coats had slipped behind a box of photo frames. When I reached in to pull it free, something hard slid from the pocket and hit the floor with a dull thud. A phone. Black. Scratched. Locked. And still charged. It was one I had never seen before. Not the iPhone he always carried. This was old. Burner style. And it only had one message thread. No contact name. Just a number. I opened the thread with shaking hands. Status update. Emma wedding complete. Ava next Saturday. Do not get attached this time. Under control. My stomach turned. These weren't just messages to himself. Someone had been guiding him. This wasn't just one man with a double life. There was someone else involved. Someone above him. I sent screenshots to Madison immediately. 10 minutes later, she was at my door, breathless, panic on her face. "Do you realize what this means?" she whispered. This wasn't just him. She nodded. "It's like he's working for someone. Like this is part of something bigger." But what? A cult? A scam ring? Blackmail? I didn't want to believe it. But the facts kept piling. The accounts under false names. The changing addresses. The other women who had never been able to trace him. The copy-paste charm, but no real roots. He was moving in patterns, almost mechanical. We went back to Celia, the older woman who had once worked with him. We showed her the phone. The thread. Her face went pale. I remember him taking strange calls in the stairwell. Always stepping away. I thought it was a girlfriend, or a loan shark. But now, she trailed off, visibly shaken. Then she said something that froze the air between us. There was always a man in a gray suit who picked him up in a black car. Every Friday. Never spoke. Just waited. I saw it 3 times before Lucas disappeared. Madison and I exchanged a look. It wasn't just about heartbreak anymore. This was danger. Later that night, we took the burner phone to Detective Hall. She looked over the messages and leaned back in her chair, her fingers steepled beneath her chin. "This goes far beyond marital fraud," she said. If this man is being directed, then you're dealing with an organization. A network. Possibly trafficking in identity theft or international fraud. But why marriages? I asked. Her answer chilled me. Marriage gives someone legal ties. Residency. Access to joint accounts. Insurance. Travel visas. It's one of the most exploitable legal systems in existence. And it's rarely investigated unless someone pushes. That's when it hit me. I wasn't just some broken-hearted bride. I was collateral in a much bigger scheme. The next morning, I woke up to another message on my phone. Same unknown number. This time it read, "Stop digging. You got your closure." And below that, a photo of me on my balcony from outside, taken just last night. My scream woke the neighbors. Madison rushed over, and I showed her the photo. She didn't hesitate. "We go public," she said. "We make this unignorable." We called the local paper that had published the first version of our story. This time, we gave them everything: names, timelines, messages, screenshots. We even gave them the phone. By sunset, the article went live, "The Man Who Married Us All," and the shadow network behind him, and within hours, it exploded. But the true twist? That night, another woman reached out. Not a victim. A partner. Her name was Celine. She wasn't scammed. She was in on it. She had been working with Lucas, for years. "He never loved any of you," she said coldly in her voicemail. "You were all means to an end. And now you've made yourselves a liability." My knees gave out as I listened to her voice over and over. The world tilted. We weren't just chasing a ghost. We were at war with people who had built this deception from the ground up. And we had just made ourselves their #1 targets. The morning after the article went viral, everything changed. Our inboxes overflowed with messages from other women, some names I recognized, some I didn't. The stories were eerily similar. Promises, rings, lies. And always a sudden disappearance. Ryan, Lucas, whatever his name really was, had married or proposed to at least 6 of us. Some for legal loopholes. Some for access to their finances. One woman even admitted he'd helped her apply for a business loan, in her name. She still owed the bank $48,000. He wasn't just a manipulator. He was a professional ghost in 1,000 different mirrors. But it didn't matter how many stories we gathered if law enforcement wouldn't act. Detective Hall pushed hard, but without a clear identity, charges were difficult. He had used fake documents for every marriage. No fingerprints in the system. No verifiable family. Every trail he left vanished at a dead end. Until we got a hit on Celine. One of the women had taken a blurry photo of her during a supposed brunch meeting. It wasn't much, but facial recognition software from an online group of amateur cyber sleuths helped. Her real name was Sylvia King. A former identity consultant. Disbarred 5 years ago for falsifying legal documents. Last known address, Atlanta. And she had a brother. Lucas. Real name, Elliot King. With new evidence, the FBI finally stepped in. It took 3 weeks to locate them. They had changed towns again, using fresh names. But they weren't expecting the nationwide article. Or the women who had become their hunters. When they finally raided a townhouse in Tallahassee, Elliot tried to run. He didn't get far. Madison and I were called in a week later to formally identify him. I didn't know what I expected. Anger? Relief? Satisfaction? Instead, when I saw him through the glass, I felt nothing. Not hate. Not love. Just emptiness. The man I thought I married didn't exist. He didn't look sorry. He didn't even look surprised. He just sat there with his arms crossed, his face expressionless. "I loved you," I whispered, even though he couldn't hear. But the moment passed. And I walked out. The trial took months. Sylvia pled guilty and cut a deal in exchange for testifying. Elliot, Lucas, Ryan, chose to remain silent. The charges ranged from marriage fraud to conspiracy to commit identity theft, to financial abuse, to immigration fraud. Each woman's story added weight. The DA called it one of the most disturbing emotional and financial exploitation networks ever uncovered. He was sentenced to 32 years. I should have felt justice. Closure. Something final. But even in chains, he still haunted us. He had taken something none of us could ever get back. Months later, I stood at the beach, watching the waves roll in. Madison was next to me, arms crossed against the wind. We had become something more than friends, more than survivors. Sisters in a story no one would believe if it hadn't been real. "Do you think we'll ever stop looking over our shoulders?" she asked. "I don't know," I said. "But at least we're facing forward now." She smiled softly, tears in her eyes. "You know the weirdest part?" "What?" "I don't regret loving him. I regret not loving myself enough to walk away sooner." And just like that, the weight shifted. Not gone. But lighter. That night, I opened a letter I'd been avoiding for weeks. It came from the prison. From him. "Emma, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect you to read this. But I need you to know, you weren't supposed to be part of it. You were the only one I wanted to stay with. But they wouldn't let me. Tell Madison I'm sorry." It ended without a name. I burned it. Because some endings don't need answers. Some just need peace. A year passed. And for once, silence didn't feel threatening. There were no new emails. No hidden photos. No frantic group chats unraveling yet another lie. Just quiet. Peace. Healing. Madison moved to a small town outside Portland and opened a coffee shop named Second Chances. It wasn't flashy, but it was hers. And every cup came with a tiny paper heart that read, "You matter." I stayed in the city, but I changed everything else. I stopped chasing perfect. Stopped needing answers. I started volunteering at a shelter for women, some who had been through worse than we ever had. And slowly, I began to feel whole again. Elliot's letter was the last I ever heard from him. He tried to appeal twice. Both were denied. I never wrote back. I didn't need to. Some people want closure through conversations or confessions. I realized mine was found in disconnection. He no longer lived rent-free in my mind. The damage he caused left scars, yes, but it also left clarity. Love is not made of stolen moments or beautiful lies. It's found in showing up. In truth. Inconsistency. One rainy afternoon, I received a package. It had no return address. Inside was a small box, worn at the edges. Inside the box, a locket. I opened it carefully, half expecting something sinister. Instead, I found two photos. One of me, laughing. A candid shot from our trip to Big Sur. The other. Madison, mid-speech at her wedding. Her real wedding. And a note, I watched you both become real after I left. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I wanted you to know. You were never the con. You were the only parts that were real. There was no signature. But somehow, we both knew who sent it. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just placed the locket on my bookshelf, between Women Who Run with the Wolves, and The Art of Letting Go. And I let it rest there. The last woman in our survivors group got her annulment finalized last month. We toasted over video call, laughing and crying and promising never to let anyone silence our truth again. We weren't victims anymore. We were women who outlived the lie. People often ask me, would you do it all over again? I used to hesitate. Now, I answer with quiet certainty, no. But I'm proud I made it through. Not because I was strong every moment. But because I allowed myself to be broken, and still got back up. That's what healing looks like. It's not shiny. It's slow. Honest. Real. If you've ever been lied to, if someone ever fractured your sense of reality, please remember this: you are not stupid. You are not weak. You were loving, and someone used that against you. But that doesn't make your love any less valuable. It makes theirs worthless.